Hey guys, Julian. Oh wait, hang on. There we go, much better. Hey guys, what's up? It's Julian. As you can see, I've got a new setup today. I've got a new camera, new PC as well, and today we're going to be talking about how to make hard Mainroom Techno like alignment. You know, sort of more Mainroom Techno. Of course, alignment is releasing on a lot of labels that are more aligned with the more Mainroom sound, but then bringing in the 90s and modern hard techno influence into it. As usual, you can get the full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, everything like that from this video is available right at the top of the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. And yeah, let's get started. So this is the project file. You heard it in the intro. The first thing we have going on here is we're on 138 BPM. Again, a little bit faster, more hard techno influence, but it gives us that more like aggressive, upbeat energy. And the first sound here, the stabs, which sound like this. So the first layer, it's two layers. We have this respace, which is the first one. And then this rave chord step. So for the respace, I'll show you the MIDI first. Here's the MIDI. It's really simple. It seems complicated, but if you look at this, you can see like, you know, it's really only a few notes. And it's all just like this dark sort of E minor scale thing. Then we jump up. This is the same pattern over here, but it's just jumping up an octave. So it's just kind of a different way to keep it a little bit more exciting and give it a bit more life. For the sound here, you can see it's a very simple Reese sound. All it is just two saw waves. The second one is detuned, a pretty good amount. And then we have the amp envelope set like this. And then the only other thing inside of the synth here is just the unison. You can see we have 8 voices, so it's quite a bit of unison. I've got the amount up at 30%, so you know, it's enough. But yeah, so we just have that, giving it that chorusy sort of respace feel. And then the last thing here is just the saturator. So here's without it. And then with it. So you can hear without it, it's pretty much the same sound, but this makes it a lot fatter and a bit more aggressive as well, which I think is really nice. And yeah, this is a really simple sound. Like, it's really just about creating this like simple, powerful synth and then letting that shine rather than, you know, using a million different things to process it to get it there. The next thing that we have here is this rave chord stab, which sounds like this. So you can hear how that's fitting into the mix there. This is just, I'll play you the original sample so you can hear it. Yeah, pretty standard sort of rave stab here, like you've heard it in a lot of older techno tracks. And then I've just got this one in here playing the same MIDI as the respace, and then it's just going through a bit of saturation. And so, yeah, it's a really simple sound. This is just about adding kind of like, you know, something a bit more sampled to the mix, because if we just use the respace, it's cool, but it doesn't have as much texture as when you bring in something like this. Because of the way it feels when you're pitching it around, especially with like those notes like here, where it's like going up like that, you know, it just feels like a lot more full if you have something like this that is a bit more sampled on top of it. And then I have the stabs in a group, so we just have a bit of reverb and then some drum bus and a high pass filter. Here's with nothing. You can hear the reverb's pretty strong. That's something I noticed in these tracks is like, if you add a lot of reverb to these stabs, it's going to give them a lot more space and kind of, they're adding some atmosphere to the track now rather than the reverb just being for the sake of the stabs. It's more like adding to the overall track, which when you have a really simple track like this, you know, it really helps to have something like that, and you can really hear it in the space. Then the drum bus. So let's just glue these together, you know, fattens them up a bit, makes them feel a bit more even. And then the high pass filter. It's just to make sure it's not going to get in the way of the lows. Yeah, that's it for the stabs. Then we have this Dissonant Drone here, which sounds like this. So the way this is made, it's a combination of synthesis and just simple MIDI programming. Because if you look at this, you'll notice we have two dissonant notes here. We have E and F playing at the same time, which when you play those together, you get that kind of uneasy, kind of like dark thing. But then if we play this on its own, like if we just play one note here, you can hear it doesn't quite have that same energy to it. So it's important to have the two notes like that to get the sound. But then for the synth patch on this one, it's made with operators. So what it really is it's just a saw wave with a little bit of FM from the second oscillator here. Here's without that. And then with it, so you can hear what that adds, it's up an octave and it's detuned a little bit. So we're getting this kind of like more uneasy sort of detuned sound. And yeah, I really recommend FM synthesis for making these kinds of drones like you hear in these tracks. And then the only other thing inside of the synth here, this LFO actually is not really doing anything because we have the amount all the way down. But we have this filter and you can see I'm automating this to go like whoop. So it's all about that finesse there where we're getting like the kind of slow build up and then it builds up really big at the end. And that's part of what makes the sound having big sort of like that flare up at the end there. So when you're making automations like this, it's important to think about that and not just, make a straight line, but make something that feels a bit more organic and alive like this. Then we just have a bit of reverb. You can see it's giving it some space. We've got a bit of drum bus as well, which actually really fattens this up. Even though this is like more of a kind of pad sound, you still want to do everything you can to make it really fat and really full and big. So that's what that's doing. And then finally, we just have a high pass filter to cut out the lows and make sure that's not going to get in the way of the rumble or the kick or anything like that. And then finally, I just have a compressor, which is sidechaining this to the kick. And this is something I want to talk about also is like the combination of movements here. You're getting basically half notes with this filter here, but then we're getting quarter notes with the side chain. So it's like the combination of that boom, 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 and the boom, boom, boom. Those two movements happening at once are really adding a lot to the sound, and that's really like a big part of what makes it work. So it's important to really break that down and like get to understand not just like how to make the sound, but what really makes it work and how like different sources of movement can add to that. And then we have this click loop, which sounds like this. So if you've heard an alignment track or any of this style of techno, you've heard this sort of click loop before. You can hear it just kind of sits over the kick like this. Like this would be a very typical intro in one of these style of tracks. So yeah, and all this is doing is it's just playing 16th notes, and then we have two layers. We have this layer, which is this Bandpass Kick. You can see it's set like that. I've got the filter on it, or the LFO on the filter a little bit moving it. And then we have this operator layer. And all this is just some white noise. And then I have it going into a bandpass filter with a really, really short envelope. And that's how you get that clickiness out of it. And then I have an LFO on the filter cutoff as well. And yeah, so you just get the best of both worlds this way. We're getting the nice mid-range from this kick, and then the high end from the operator clicks, and then you put it together, and you get this still very thin and kind of like background sound, but it's very full, if that makes any sense. And it's gonna still like sit, even when we have all these things happening. You can hear it just as strongly in the intro as you can hear it in this part where everything's happening. And yeah, and then for effects on this, we just have a bit of echo, so here's without that. And then with it, you can hear I've got it on the ping pong setting, and it's this really fast echo, so it's just giving it a bit of space, a bit of width. Then the drum bus, which is making this actually a lot fatter. Here's without it. This goes a long way from making it like really stand out in the mix. And then I just have a compressor side chaining this to the kick, and then an EQ8 just cutting out a bit of room for the kick at 100 hertz. And that's it for the click loop. Then we have our rumble kick. So this is 2 layers. It's the kick, which you can see is just this really fat, punchy, deep kick. If you look at the waveform here, you can see the bass kind of like roll off there is actually the loudest part. Like the punch is just this very quick, like kind of dipping waveform like this, and then the ending is what really gives it its fatness. Because if we make it just the click, you can see like that's too thin. The fatness really comes in like that bass. So that's what you want to go for with this style of kick. And then we have the rumble. And the way the rumble is made is it's just the kick. So I'll turn all the stuff off. It's just the kick. Playing straight 16th notes like that. And then all we did is we just low pass it. And then there you go. You get just this nice rumbly kind of bass happening. And yeah, this is a really simple way to make a rumble, but it's a really good way because you get an even response over the whole time. Like if you make a reverb rumble, you kind of get like that, like it goes away. But with this one, you get that solid bass over the whole loop. And then the only effects I have on that are just a bit of compressor side chaining it to the main kick, and then an EQ8 to cut out a bit of room. This just cuts out some space for the kick and then boosts the lows. And then on the group of the kick and the rumble, we just have a bit of saturation. So here's without that. And then with it, you can see it's up pretty high. This is the thing is, like, if you have a good kick and rumble already, you do need something to glue them together because you want them to kind of come together as one. But you don't want to just have, like, a million different things here. And even, like, the thing that we do have is very subtle. Like, Saturator, it's not doing, like, so much, like, coloring as it is just, like, gluing the sounds together by kind of filling in some harmonic space there. And then just making them super fat. So yeah, you can see, like, if you just have a good kick, a good rumble, you don't need to do too much processing on either of them. And then when you put them together, just a bit of saturation, and it'll sound great just as it is. Then we have the hi-hat. So this one is really more about the type of sound. If you notice a lot of these tracks, the way the mix typically works is we have, like, the kick, or the drum mix, I should say. Then we have this click, which is kind of like in the low mid-range. So the kick is in the low end, the click is in the low mid-range. Then this hi-hat is right in the mid-range. You can hear, and I'll show you too, like if we pull up a spectrum. You can see the hi-hat is really happening like up here in the mid-range. And then the ride. That's the thing that's going to add that high end. So with the hi-hat, you really don't want anything too like... You really want more of like a... So this is one that I made here just with some layering and stuff. I've got to go into a bit of reverb and then some drum bus. So here's without those. You can hear it just gives it a bit more atmosphere, With a track as simple as this, you can really hear all that reverb, so it makes a difference when you add it to the hi-hat. And the drum bus just makes it fatter. And yeah, like I said, the hi-hat's really just about getting that nice, like... Then we have the ride. And so this is just your standard techno 909 ride. You can see I've got a bit of a high-pass filter here because these can have a bit of nasty, like, low end and low mid-range. And then I just have it going through 2 effects. We have an echo here, which you can see this is set to be really fast, and then it's on the ping pong setting. So that's just creating that, like, width. So that this kind of sits more in the, like, left and right ear, and then we have everything else straight down the center. And then the drum bus, just to make it a bit fatter. And yeah, that's it for the ride, and that is also going to be it for this video, guys. So I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get the full project files, samples, MIDI, presets, everything like that from this video is available right at the top of the description on my Bandcamp for just $5. It's a great way to support me if you guys have been enjoying these videos. And yeah, thank you again, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.